The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
I'm Dr. Adriene Foster Scharf. I'm the Dean of STEM here at Bristol Community College. I actually have been interested in science and particularly microbiology for a good part of my life. Even as a small child, I used to look in a toy microscope that my family gave me. I used to do all sorts of science experiments, and I used to love to read about kind of the quirky things that happen in the natural world. So I've always been interested in science. Then I started, it started with science fairs in elementary school and high school. Then I got into internship programs in high school where I would go to universities and colleges. They would assign a project for me to do, and I would learn more about the natural world that way. Then I continued that in college, so I would go to other institutions as an undergrad and do research, and the more I learned, the more excited I would get, again, particularly about microbiology. And then I decided to go to graduate school so that I could continue that even further. I find it incredibly fascinating how things that are so tiny as microorganisms can overpower organisms that are much larger than they are. If you think about the last time you got sick, there's a good chance that there was a microbe that was involved in that, and they're so tiny that you can't see them with your naked eye. So it's just fun to think about all the different proteins and DNAs that they have and how they interact with us and our immune systems. You know, I actually think that there are a lot of great contributions that art can bring to STEM, or to STEM rather. I know that originally STEM, which stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics, usually is preferred in the undergraduate and graduate schools. And then STEAM is focused on more in the K through 12 schools. There's a lot of art in science already. Are interested in crystals and the way that they're designed, and it's very sculptural and very artistic. Should STEM actually be STEAM is the question. Yes. So STEM stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics. And if you're in one of the STEM disciplines, you know that there's some parts of the artistic process that are also in STEM. Art is great for critical thinking. If you think about how an artist decides to represent some of their ideas or some of the things that they're seeing, those are skills that we use in STEM. If you think about the design process that some artists use, that marries really nicely with some of the processes that you see in engineering. In fact, there's an engineering class that a lot of our art students here at Bristol take. And they basically learn more about how engineers go about the design process. I think that there is room for art in STEM just because when concepts that you learn in art, you learn about spatial orientation, spatial organization. You learn about, again, critical thinking. You learn about how to communicate. If you think about things like creative writing, those are all important skills for the STEM practitioner as well. So there's room definitely for the A in STEAM. The A in STEM to give STEAM. But I definitely see where there's overlap between the artistic disciplines and the STEM disciplines. Some careers, STEM careers that employ a lot of artistic concepts and artistic practice and design. You can think about architects, architectural engineering. You can think a little bit of what I used to study, which is structural biology. You can think about your scientific communicators. They use a lot of creative writing in their work to explain science, technology, engineering, and math to everyone. There's a lot of overlap between the two. So it appears that STEAM is more of a concept for the K through 12 grades versus the undergraduate and graduate levels. So will we see STEM eventually be called STEAM? I don't think so, at least not in the areas that I'm most familiar with. I also understand that STEAM is more common in the southern part of the United States than it is up here in the Northeast. So I don't think that art should be cut. I definitely don't think it should be the first thing. Arts education is incredibly important in producing well-rounded, educated adults. It's there that you get to develop your critical thinking skills in a completely new and accessible way. That's where you get to explore your creativity, and you get to, again, experiment and learn about the design process. All of that is very important, I think, to other areas of study, other disciplines that adults study when they're pursuing higher education. Certainly those elements of arts education are important to STEM. I think art is incredibly important because, again, arts education is not just about producing art, but it's also about thinking about art. And part of that process is looking at artwork that someone has produced and thinking, getting inside their brain. What is it that they're trying to communicate? What is it that they're trying to show, or that they want us as the observer of the art to note? That's incredibly important for developing critical thinking skills. Being able to make connections between the art of one artist and the art of another artist, and maybe tying that into what the historical or political thoughts are of the time in which the art was created. Incredibly important, again, for critical thinking. You know, when we look at art and when we think about art, we don't realize that we're using critical thinking skills, which I think is incredibly powerful, because if you want to be an educated, if you want to be a well-rounded adult, you need those critical thinking skills. If you want to be able to analyze what you're seeing in the news, or you want to be able to analyze this new research study, you need to be able to think critically about what you're seeing, and arts education helps you develop that type of thinking, and it helps expose you to the variety of different ways that people can express thoughts, ideas. I think people have to prioritize arts education, and I think that they have to write to their representatives and to their senators and express how important arts education is to all of us as human beings. I think that's the most powerful way. And I think one of the things that people don't realize is how important local elections are in determining how budgets get spent. In addition to reaching out to your representatives and your senators, you also should reach out to your councilmen, the school board, your local political leaders, and let them know that this education is important to you and that you'd like to see more funding devoted to arts education.